Okay, everyone, so you can see that I am very excited about one of the upcoming Unmatched fighters. And this is actually one that I've been excited about for some time. Now, don't talk about this a lot on here, but I did play test some of Stars and Stripes. So I knew about Wyatt Earp for some time, and I have been like ridiculously excited about Wyatt Earp and happy to finally be able to talk about him coming into Unmatched, because that is the character that I'm most excited about in there. Not that Rosie and Washington and John Henry are not all going to be really cool, but Wyatt Earp just like really excites me because I've wanted an Old West fighter. I've wanted that cowboy type there. Not that Wyatt Earp was a cowboy, but definitely still excited to get him in there. And so what Wyatt Earp is mostly known for nowadays is going to be the gunfight at the OK Corral. You can look up about him and see that. You can also, if you haven't ever seen it, there's a lot of films out there. Tombstone in particular being like that's like top tier Wyatt Earp films there. So that's the one to go watch. Wyatt Earp's legacy has been a bit more than just a bit romanticized. Like any real life person that comes into Unmatched, he's going to have the good things about him and some of the problematic stuff, and that's all there. However, I'm going to talk about a very different story about Wyatt Earp, something that a lot of people don't know about because it's a story that's kind of fallen a bit out of public awareness. Now, this is going to be the time that Wyatt Earp refereed the heavyweight championship boxing match. Now, this is going to be 1896. OK Corral was in 1881, so this is 15 years later. So how did Wyatt Earp end up in this? Well, Wyatt Earp was had his hands in a lot of different things besides just law enforcement over the years. A lot of that being gambling, which he owned some gambling establishments and had been involved in gambling a lot, but also boxing. And he had refereed some, while not nationally very well recognized events, some pretty big local boxing events. So him being a referee is not a completely insane idea. So this was happening in San Francisco, was where this was going to be had at. The previous heavyweight champion had stepped down and relinquished his title, and so a boxing promoter decided he was going to promote this as the heavyweight championship. There wasn't really like an organization looking over everything here, but it was going to be between Bob Fitzsimmons and Tom Sharkey, and Fitzsimmons was the big favorite for this. Everyone expected Bob Fitzsimmons or Ruby Robert to defeat the freckled sailor Tom Sharkey. The problem they were having is they had like already started collecting like selling tickets to this thing, so people were going to this event. They'd already collected money for it and they knew that was happening. And by the way, this will become relevant later in the story, but any type of prize fighting was illegal in San Francisco, but literally nobody cared about that fact. But the problem that they're having here is that Fitzsimmons and Sharkey's people could not agree on a referee. And part of that was that Fitzsimmons people were concerned that they would get someone that would be in the fix to try to throw it to Sharkey. And so Fitzsimmons people were just shooting in every name that was thrown out there. Promoter doesn't know what to do. He's just in town. He's at a hotel when he happens to see Wyatt Earp. Now, what is Wyatt Earp doing in San Francisco? Well, Wyatt Earp had kind of befriended the Hearst family. When I say the Hearst family, this is going to be George Hearst and William Randolph Hearst, who you know William Randolph Hearst for the newspapers that he was so heavily involved in. George Hearst, his father, had been a senator, a businessman, had gotten into that. George Hearst is a major character on the HBO series Deadwood, which also had Wyatt Earp in it in an episode. But Wyatt was doing some security for the Hearst family, had been their bodyguard when they went to Tombstone, and had just been with them there in San Francisco, and just kind of ended up there. Since the promoter knew that Wyatt Earp had refereed some boxing matches before, he decided, why not? He approached him. Wyatt said he would be up to it. He went to Fitzsimmons and Sharkey's people, and they were both like, well, they just knew him as this lawman that had to deal with a bunch of, bad guys out there. So they ended up agreeing to it. And part of the reason Fitzsimmons people went for it is that they were just running out of time. They were going to have to get a referee for this thing to happen. Now, the reason that the promoter had heard so much about Wyatt Earp was that the San Francisco Examiner had, not long before this, had done a bunch of stories in there on their Sunday papers, talking about Wyatt Earp and playing up everything that he had done. Shouldn't surprise you that the Examiner was one of the Hearst's papers. So they basically get ready to do this thing. Wyatt Earp shows up. As you would expect Wyatt Earp to show up, he's like, got his revolver on him there, and he goes into the ring, and the police captain that's in attendance, and mind you, this is an illegal event here, but the police are there, the city officials are there, nobody cares. But the police captain goes up to Wyatt and like, hey, can't have your gun in the ring. And Wyatt hands it over without a fuss, because apparently like the guns in the ring was like the line for the police here, not the illegal events altogether. But the match starts and it goes through, and there's several rounds into this thing. And ended up getting into some very close quarter fighting where a lot of people couldn't see what was happening there. They could kind of see the punches were going on there. But Fitzsimmons ended up getting several consecutive shots onto Sharkey, hitting him big. He got some hits into him there in the stomach, and Sharkey goes down. Wyatt takes a little bit of time to talk to the two sides, walks over to Sharkey, who's like collapsed on the ground because he just went down hard, raises up his hand, says that Fitzsimmons hit him below the belt in the groin and declared him the winner. This goes over exactly like you would imagine it to go over with all the fans. They are not happy. A lot of them back there are confused because like there's no like PA system or anything. They don't know what's going on. Wyatt Earp decides to get out of the ring, goes up to the police captain, gets his revolver back, and decides it's time to get the hell out of Dodge and just leaves. And so, yeah, this ends up causing quite a stir because everyone's like, what the heck just happened? There are already a bunch of concerns and rumors going around that they were going to try to throw this thing to Sharkey. And now Wyatt Earp has just declared Sharkey the winner when Sharkey was like on the ground, not unconscious, but basically just completely limp down there. I mean, they had to carry him out of there. He couldn't even like stand up to be the victor. The dude had clearly gone down hard. And so you get like everybody is mad at Earp, and you got like all these newspapers are like throwing all these bad stories out about Earp, about how he's either incompetent or he's on the take and part of this. Well, that's all the papers except for the Hearst papers, which say that he did exactly what he was supposed to do, and he made the tough decision to do the right thing there. Hurst standing up for his guy, everyone else throwing all the crap that they could at Hurst guys because they just don't like Hurst. A lot of them start to put out a lot of stories about crazy things, some bad stuff that Wyatt Earp may have been involved with. Wyatt was not always the best guy, so is it possible that some of these are true? Sure, we don't know. But Fitzsimmons people get the legal system involved. They get an injunction to hold this, so purse is being held. They can't, Sharky's people can't take all of it. So you got all this going on, and there are like several days of proceedings here going on this. They're all, you've got like all the witnesses going in there. You've got Sharky, Fitzsimmons, their people, the promoter, Wyatt Earp, the police that were there. Everybody's getting in on this. And eventually what the court ended up deciding was that there were two things. Number one, they had a lot of hearsay evidence that really they cannot determine the validity of. And number two, this was an illegal fight anyway. So why are we even like having a court decision about this? We have no authority over an illegal prize fight. We should be arresting and fining every single one of you. So case was thrown out. Sharky is able to take his money, and even though he claimed to be the heavyweight world champion, nobody ended up taking him seriously on this. Now, years later, the doctor that had examined Sharky after the fight said that he had done something to Sharky to make it look like he got hit down there, but declined to specify exactly what it was. He says he was paid $1,000 to do that. He said he didn't know if Wyatt Earp was in on it or not. He just knew that he was. Wyatt Earp, for his thing on there, ended up getting fined for, number one, refereeing an illegal prize fight, and number two, illegally wearing a concealed weapon. And that kind of really followed Wyatt Earp around for a lot of his life. Now, he tried getting into Hollywood and tried getting into movies. Wasn't really successful with that, although he did befriend a number of people from Hollywood. And it was a few years after he died when a biography about him, which pretty much everyone agrees greatly embellished his story. Once that came out, he became quite popular, and then he kind of turns into the figure that we know him as today. So anyway, we've got Wyatt Earp coming into Unmatched. This was a crazy story about him that I had come across and thought was just too bizarre to leave to myself, and I had to tell all of you guys. So yeah, a little bit different video here. We'll get back to doing board game and Unmatched stuff later, but just thought y'all might like this one.